Have you ever looked up at the night sky? You might see the moon, a few bright stars, or perhaps a planet. It is a beautiful and familiar sight. But what if it was different? What if you looked up and saw something truly spectacular? Imagine a giant, shimmering arch stretching across the sky. This arch would be made of countless tiny pieces of ice and rock, all circling our planet. This is what it would be like if Earth had rings, just like the planet Saturn. It is a wonderful thought, isn't it? This simple change would transform everything we know about our world. It would change our days, our nights, and even the way we see ourselves. The idea of Earth with rings is not just a pretty picture. It is a fascinating question that makes us think about our planet in a new way. So what are these amazing rings we are imagining? They might look solid from far away, like a giant hula hoop around a planet, but they are not solid at all. Planetary rings are actually made of billions or even trillions of small pieces of material. These pieces are all orbiting a planet together in a flat, disc-like shape. Most of the pieces are very small, about the size of a grain of sand or a small pebble. Some can be larger, perhaps as big as a car or even a house. Why do these pieces form a ring? It is all because of gravity. The same force that keeps you on the ground and keeps the moon orbiting the Earth would hold these rings together. This balance creates the stunning, flat disk that we see around planets like Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune in our own solar system. The rings around other planets are incredibly thin compared to their width. If you were to make a model of Saturn's rings out of paper, the rings would be much thinner than the paper itself. If Earth had rings, the view from our planet would be completely transformed. Let's imagine you are standing near the equator, perhaps in a city like Quito, Ecuador. Here, the rings would be directly overhead. When you looked up, you would not see a gentle arch. Instead, you would see a brilliant thin line of light slicing the sky in two, from east to west. Now let's travel a bit further north, to a city like London or New York. From these mid-latitudes, the view would be perhaps the most spectacular of all. The rings would appear as a magnificent wide arch rising from the eastern horizon, climbing high into the sky, and then descending to touch the western horizon. What if you were very far north, in the Arctic Circle? From a place like northern Norway or Alaska, the view would be different yet again. Here, the rings would appear as a low, shimmering band of light that seems to rise from the southern horizon. In the long, dark polar winters, this glowing band would be a constant source of light in the sky. The time of day and the seasons would also change the view dramatically. At noon, the rings would be at their whitest, but at dawn and dusk, they would be a spectacle of color. And twice a year, during the equinoxes, something amazing would happen. The sun would be perfectly aligned with the plane of the rings, and they would seem to disappear from the sky. The presence of rings would do more than just change our view of the sky. Nights would never be truly dark again, especially in the parts of the world with a grand view of the rings. The vast surface of the rings would reflect sunlight back onto the night side of the Earth. This phenomenon, known as ring shine, would be much brighter than moonlight. Seasons would also take on a new meaning. The rings would cast a shadow on the Earth. This shadow would be a wide, dark band that would move across the planet's surface throughout the day. In winter, for one hemisphere, the ring shadow would be cast upon it for much of the day, making winters noticeably cooler and darker. This would make the difference between seasons even more extreme. Our culture, art, and stories would be filled with references to the rings. Imagine the myths and legends that ancient civilizations would have created to explain the giant arch in the sky. It might have been seen as a bridge to the heavens, the pathway of the gods, or a cosmic river. Religions might be centered around it. Even our sense of time and direction could be influenced by the rings. The great arch in the sky would be a perfect east-west marker, a celestial compass for everyone to see. The moving shadow of the rings across the ground could be used as a giant natural sundial, allowing people to track the hours of the day. If Earth had rings, a natural question to ask is, where would they have come from? Scientists have several ideas about how planetary rings can form. One of the most likely explanations involves something called the Roche limit. This is an invisible boundary around a planet. If a moon or a comet gets too close to a planet, the planet's powerful gravity can become stronger than the object's own gravity holding it together. The planet's gravity would literally pull the object apart, stretching and shredding it into countless small pieces that then spread out to form a ring. So for Earth to get rings, we might need a dramatic event. The resulting debris would not have fallen to Earth, but would have entered into a stable orbit, slowly spreading out over thousands of years. What would these rings be made of? If they came from a shattered icy comet, the rings would be bright and shiny, made mostly of water ice, just like Saturn's famous rings. If they were formed from a rocky asteroid or a small rocky moon, the rings would be much darker. They might look more like a dark charcoal-colored band against the sky. The rings would not last forever. Over millions of years, they would be affected by the solar wind, micrometeorite impacts, and the drag of Earth's uppermost atmosphere. Slowly but surely, the ring material would rain down onto our planet. An Earth ring system would face the same fate, eventually fading away after a few 100 million years. While a ringed Earth would be beautiful, it would also present some significant challenges. The most obvious challenge would be the immense shadow cast by the rings. For people living in the latitudes affected by the shadow, this would mean a significant reduction in daily sunlight. This could have a major impact on agriculture and solar power generation. The constant presence of the rings would also be a major problem for astronomy. The rings, especially at night, would be incredibly bright due to ring shine. Professional observatories would face a huge challenge. They would likely need to be built in very specific locations, like the high polar regions, to get a clear view of the cosmos. Furthermore, the ring rain we discussed earlier would be a constant issue. Every day, tons of tiny ice and dust particles would be falling from the rings into our upper atmosphere. The constant influx of dust could also pose a risk to satellites and spacecraft in low Earth orbit, creating a more hazardous environment for the technology we rely on. The rings' influence would extend beyond just light and shadow. They could have a profound effect on our planet's weather patterns. The large moving shadow would create significant temperature differences on the ground. This sharp temperature gradient could generate powerful winds and more extreme weather events. The ring rain of dust and ice particles entering the atmosphere could also influence our climate in more subtle ways. These tiny particles could act as seeds for cloud formation. With more particles in the upper atmosphere, it might become easier for clouds to form, potentially leading to a more overcast planet with a net cooling effect. City life would also adapt to the presence of the rings. In the regions most affected by the daily shadow, urban planning would have to be rethought. Cities might develop a different rhythm, with a lull in activity during the shadowy ring noon and a burst of energy in the brighter parts of the day. Our ambition to explore space would face a formidable new obstacle: the rings themselves. Launching a rocket from Earth is already a challenge, but launching it through a dense field of icy and rocky debris would be incredibly dangerous. Launch sites would likely be moved as close to the Earth's poles as possible. From a high-latitude location, a rocket could be launched upwards and away from the plane of the rings. The rings would not just be a hazard, they would also be a fascinating destination for scientific study. Once we figured out how to navigate them safely, we could send robotic probes into the rings themselves. Over time, we might even learn to use the resources of the rings. The rings, if they were icy, would contain vast amounts of water, incredibly valuable in space. A future civilization might develop technologies to mine the rings for water ice. This could create refueling stations in orbit, making it much easier and cheaper to travel to the Moon, Mars, and beyond. The rings, initially a dangerous barrier, could eventually become our stepping stone to the rest of the solar system. Imagining an Earth with rings does something wonderful. It makes us look at our own planet with fresh eyes. We often take our world for granted. But this thought experiment reminds us that our Earth is a planet, a celestial body floating in the immense darkness of space. It is a member of a cosmic family. Thinking about rings connects us to the other worlds in our solar system, like Saturn and Jupiter, and makes us feel like part of a grander, more exciting universe. It sparks our curiosity and makes us ask big questions about why our world is the way it is. This journey of imagination highlights the delicate balance that makes life on Earth possible. The absence of rings is part of that balance. Our stable climate, our clear view of the stars, and the safety of our satellites all depend on our sky being empty. The dream of a ringed Earth is a celebration of human curiosity. It is the same spirit that led early astronomers to map the stars, that sent explorers across oceans, and that now pushes us to send probes to distant planets. We are a species that looks up and wonders. We are not content to just accept the world as it is. We want to understand how it works and imagine how it could be different. So the next time you look up at the night sky, take a moment. Imagine that brilliant arch of light stretching from horizon to horizon. While our Earth may not have rings, the universe is full of wonders we have yet to discover. There are more planets around other stars than there are grains of sand on all the beaches of Earth. The universe is a place of infinite possibility. And by asking these questions, by daring to imagine, we take our own small step into that larger, more wonderful reality.